The situation in the Middle East is becoming increasingly complex as tensions between Israel, Iran, Lebanon, and the United States continue to escalate despite ongoing diplomatic efforts. What initially appeared to be a step toward de-escalation has now turned into a fragile and uncertain phase where diplomacy and military action are unfolding at the same time. In recent developments, a temporary ceasefire understanding had been discussed between Iran and the United States. However, the reality on the ground presents a very different picture. A major point of confusion revolves around whether Lebanon is included in this arrangement. While the United States and Israel appear to treat Lebanon as a separate front, Iran considers it part of the broader conflict. This disagreement has created a dangerous gap where political agreements exist in theory, but active fighting continues in practice. Over the past 24 hours, Israeli forces have carried out a series of intense airstrikes inside Lebanon. These strikes have targeted positions linked to Hezbollah, a powerful armed group based in southern Lebanon and backed by Iran. Reports suggest that multiple locations were hit within a short span of time, marking one of the most concentrated waves of attacks in recent weeks. The objective behind these operations appears to be focused on weakening Hezbollah's operational capabilities and reducing its ability to launch attacks into Israeli territory. The response has been swift and immediate. Hezbollah has resumed rocket fire toward Israeli positions, increasing tensions along the border and raising fears of a broader confrontation. At the same time, Iran has issued strong warnings, making it clear that continued attacks in Lebanon could have serious consequences for ongoing diplomatic efforts. From Iran's perspective, any escalation involving Hezbollah is not isolated, but part of a larger regional conflict. At the center of global concern is the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow but critically important waterway through which a large portion of the world's oil supply passes. Recent developments indicate that Iran is increasing pressure in this area. While a complete blockade has not been confirmed, there are growing reports of disruptions, delays, and heightened risks for commercial vessels. Even the possibility of restricted access has already created uncertainty in global markets as shipping companies begin to reassess routes and prepare for potential disruptions. Meanwhile, the United States is attempting to manage a highly delicate situation. Donald Trump has encouraged diplomatic engagement and has reportedly pushed Israel to consider negotiations with Lebanon. At the same time, American military forces in the region remain on high alert, with increased presence and readiness for any potential escalation. This approach reflects a careful balance, aiming to maintain pressure while avoiding a full-scale regional war. In a notable development, Israel has shown willingness to engage in talks with Lebanon, with discussions expected to begin in the near future. However, this diplomatic progress remains fragile as military operations continue on the ground. The situation highlights a complex reality in which negotiations and conflict are happening simultaneously, making the outcome highly uncertain. An important question that often arises in this context is whether religion is a primary driver of this conflict. The answer is not straightforward. While religion does play a role in shaping identities and narratives, particularly in the case of Iran and Hezbollah, the underlying causes of the conflict are largely political and strategic. Iran's support for Hezbollah is influenced not only by shared religious ties, but also by its desire to expand regional influence. Israel, on the other hand, views these groups primarily through the lens of national security, considering them direct threats. The involvement of the United States is based on strategic alliances and regional stability rather than religious motivations. This makes it clear that the conflict cannot be reduced to a simple religious divide. Instead, it's a complex combination of geopolitical interests, military strategy, and power dynamics, with religion acting as a secondary factor rather than the main cause. As the situation continues to unfold, the region remains in a state of fragile balance. Military operations are ongoing, diplomatic channels are active but uncertain, and global concerns are growing due to the potential impact on critical energy routes and regional stability. The coming days will be crucial. Whether diplomacy gains momentum or tensions escalate further will depend on decisions made by all sides involved. For now, the conflict remains controlled, but the risk of a wider confrontation continues to loom.